testimony. And this is actually Dawn Nelson. She is our state rep for Celebrate Recovery. Her program is up in Layton, I believe, correct? And so it's great to have her here for the first time, and we were able to have live worship again for tonight because Dick's arm is feeling better, hand a little better, and because of Jason, who we are so grateful for. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Dawn and let her share her story with you.
I am a very grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I suffer with codependency issues and domestic violence problems for like 30 years of my life. Let's see, so I think for background I better just go to where it all started because I've recently figured this all out, amazingly. But so growing up, well, I was adopted, both me and my sister, and my older sister used to beat me up and like bully me, like force me, like say she'll tell my mom's something I didn't want her to know unless I go wait on her hand and foot, something like that, you know. But I got physical too. So that pretty much set me up for the rest of my life, unfortunately, in a bad way. That, and along with the fact that my adopted dad, lived in Idaho and we lived in Salt Lake. And so, and when he came around, he was just like mean and scary, and I never got love, you know, at all from him. As well as my adopted mom never told me she loved me until I told her at age 30. And now we say it, but growing up I never had that or hugs or anything. So all of that is a factor on how I ended up in abusive relationships from age 15 to 45. So, and so that's what happened. You know, I ran away because of how horrible it was, and I didn't like it there at all because I felt like I was left out because my mom and my sister just, you know, two peas in a pod, and then here's me. And so, anyways, I ran away and got married at age 15. Had to get special permission from a judge to be able to do that. And, oh, sorry, need to back up for a real quick one before that. At age 14, because of like what I was saying about all my childhood, when I was 13, as soon as junior high started, I didn't have any friends, you know, and the only people that would accept me was we called them the potheads back then. So we're talking 70s, okay? And so, so I started hanging out with them for no other reason than to just be accepted and have friends. And I even thought that I wasn't gonna do anything. I wasn't gonna, you know, smoke the pot or anything, but I did pretty shortly after starting to hang out with them. So I started smoking a pot and drinking whenever we could get some. And and then at age 14, I snuck out one night to meet one of my friends, and they didn't show up, and I was ready to go back inside. And a truck pulled up and asked me if I wanted to go to a keg, and up in the mountains with a bonfire. And I'm like, yeah, let's go, because I didn't think that was dangerous at all, because that's who I hung around with, people that did stuff like this, right? So like I had no fear of that at all, amazingly. But at the party I got slipped something, I don't know what, but I barely remember anything of the whole night until the next day when I woke up in a trailer with a bunch of people I didn't know, you know? And so basically, from that whole experience, I ended up pregnant, and my mom put me in a foster home so that nobody would know because she was ashamed of me. And so, you know, it wasn't real. I was so young, and it just didn't seem real until I actually had the baby. And then it was real, right? And then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna sign anything, because my mom was saying I had to give it up. And so because of that, she came in and lied to me and told me that I wasn't allowed to leave the hospital unless I paid the hospital bill if I was keeping the baby. And so I was 14, had no job, just had a baby, no money, didn't know anything about Medicaid, I had no idea there was any way to make it happen. Okay, because I was very sheltered, I grew up in Cottonwood Heights and went to Brighton High School. So, I didn't know anything about food stamps or anything like that. And so I felt like I had no choice but to sign the papers, and it made me feel like that they stole the baby from me. And looking back now, of course I understand why, right? I mean, I was 14, come on, but it didn't help me. They thought that I would move on, and then my life would be good, become good. Well, it actually made it way worse, is because I could not get over it, and I was coming up with ways to be able to get my baby back. And that's why I got married, because I thought then I could get her back. But that's not what happened. Instead, I ended up pregnant, and then I find out that, he's cheating on me when I was pregnant. It was shortly, maybe a month after we got married, he beat me up for the first time. And I was so confused about love that I didn't even, I didn't know. I was like, is this what marriage is? I don't know. Because I'd never seen a real marriage, So my dad didn't live with us and was hardly ever around. And so I hung in there with it, and, I just, one time, and we were just talking about it on the way here, how Monopoly triggers me, weirdly, but because I just was playing it with my son and his girlfriend, and it totally triggered me on New Year's Eve. It was so weird. And the reason why is because one time we were playing Monopoly, and I said, hey, you can't do that. That's cheating. And flipped the table up in the air, everything went flying, came running after me and beat me up. I would always go like this to cover up the baby so he couldn't hurt the baby. So I get it all over my back and my head. And I didn't tell anybody. It's so stupid. Didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my mom. Sorry. And so eventually, after I caught him red-handed cheating on me, I went to kick him out, and I put his stuff out on the porch, and he came in and choked me until I passed out. And I thought I was dying when I was passing out, which I was. But so after that, shortly after, I started getting the courage and ideas of ways to get away from him. But unfortunately, I got away from him, but ended up in a similar abusive relationship. Maybe not all the same ways, but in ways. He was the worst physically, put it that way. But sometimes I used to think, boy, I wish he'd just beat me up so it would be finished. Because that seems almost better than the emotional abuse that can go on. So next 30 years, same type of thing. Okay. And then, and when I was 30, I got radically saved while watching the 700 Club, and I was even on the show actually in 2004. But I was instantly changed. I was so ready at that point. There was nothing left of me anymore at that point. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And so when I prayed the sinner's prayer there and in front of my TV, I kneeled down in front of my TV, and they said, Pat Robertson actually said, repeat after me, and I said everything that he said. And he said, the thing that I remember that was different than a couple of other times, because I've said this in his prayer before, but this time he said, Jesus, come into my heart and take over my life, or something similar to that. And I'd never said that before because I didn't know to say it, right? Well, instantly I felt something hot on top of my head, slowly roll down my body. And I was totally different overnight, instantly. I was reading next to him, reading the Bible. I'm like, everything Christian, I was sucking it all in. But I wouldn't go to church for like a year because I had something against that. But I don't want to like trash anybody, you know. So, anyways, yes. So I stopped going to church and I wouldn't go. Basically, after my whole adoption baby organ. Okay. So, like all this, like, and then I'm codependent and I didn't even think I was, because it's so weird sometimes with that. I remember I was walking out of a Bible study, and God said to me, "Stop enabling him." And I'm like, "Talking to me? What? What do you mean?" Like, I was like so dumbfounded by this, because so I got saved, right, a year into our marriage, to my two youngest kids' dad, and I'm a totally different person, and he wasn't, okay? And so here we are, married, and boy, it's like, that was such a tough one for me, because I'm like, it's not like I'm saying it's okay, you know? We get in a fight, and like, if he's out, doing drugs and drinking, how am I helping him? I couldn't figure it out. And so basically, long story short on that, figured out that because I was taking care of everything, making sure everybody's taking care of our kids, his, mine, and ours, the home, the bills, whatever. I always made sure that everything was fine, and he didn't have to face any consequences for his choices. That's what it was. So, and that's when I figured out I was codependent. Sorry, my medication makes my mouth so dry. So anyway, all the way up to like the end of that, he went into a drug spot. We were married for a total of 10 years, and the last year he was in a drug spiral that just was crazy. Lots of crazy stuff happened, and it came to the point where I had to choose between him and my kids. I get a call from CPS, and I'm like, I had already been thinking about divorcing him. I already actually had the paperwork typed up, and so when they called and gave me basically the choice, I'm like, okay, well, I will go straight and file the papers right now. I just got to print them out. And so that's what I had to do, because I'm not going to lose my kids, So that's how that ended. But unfortunately, that wasn't the last horrible relationship. Even as a Christian, I was still making poor choices. And, this is another thing that I figured out. Nobody helped me. I didn't have a father, and I needed one. Like, I needed a father to take care of me and guide me. And this happens with a lot of girls, actually, that come back to church, and then they don't have a father. I needed to be taught, and nobody did, unfortunately. And that's one of my things that I want to come up with, is a program, like a mentoring type program for women, battered women. But anyway, so I was so scared to leave him, at that point, even though it was horrible, and the whole thing was completely horrible. He was so mean. Never was nice to me. He was just very emotionally abusive. And like, here's an example. Me and the kids are in the kitchen having a great time. He comes home, we all go in our rooms and shut the door. That explains him right there, basically. Even his own child goes in the room and shuts the door. But he's not fun to be around at all. So, I had to trust God. I had to learn how to trust God with everything, because I didn't want to end up like a friend of mine that ended up raising her kids in housing projects and and her kids were in gangs and stuff, you know. I was just like, no. And that's why, part of why I stayed with him for so long is like, I know, you know. And but God is awesome. I mean, he taught me. He helped me. He's like, anybody can do that. This is not just me, okay? All you gotta do is seek God for guidance. He led me. It was tough, and I didn't know for sure, you know. Just kind of had to keep stepping out in faith, little bits at a time. But before we even got divorced, that year that he was doing all that spiraling, he took a big pay cut, and I had to open a home daycare in our house to make more money. Okay, but that year gave me confidence to realize, wow, I can actually take care of my kids. And so that totally helped. And so when we got divorced and I moved back here because we were in Idaho, and opened a daycare. And like at the time, when I think about this, it's so crazy. Like, how did I do that? Like, I had no training. Okay, like, other than being a mom, like I didn't have a degree, I didn't have, you know, anything. I just had to start out in the beginning, but there was a starting point. And so eventually, I moved straight from the house in Idaho to straight here into a house. I don't know how that happened either. I mean, other than I know that was God. That's what I'm saying when I say that. I mean, how many single abused women just go and buy a house? And they just barely started their business a year before that. That was totally God. I'd have to give you all the details, but that whole thing was God. So we went right into the house, and I started the business in 2002, and I'm still in business. I raised my kids with that. And, you know, God comes through, totally. There was a lot of tough times, but I listened to God, you know, and you gotta be open to it. Like, pray, God, I'm willing to hear you. I want you to speak to me. Lead me and guide me, Holy Spirit, you know, with everything. I would have never ended all these abusive relationships without God. He's the one that got me out of it. Yeah. And yeah, it was quite a realization, actually. I was preparing my first sermon for a youth group, because I've been in Bible school since 2010, and because that was another thing God wanted me to do. And yeah, so, you know, God, you know, you never know what God is going to do. I mean, if you would have, in the beginning to now, all of these things that have happened, I would have never believed it. Like, no way, okay? That's how crazy good God is. And obviously, you know, I'm just on fire for God the same, or maybe more, now, 25 years later, as I was then. Yeah, it hasn't gone nowhere. I have a heart for wanting to help people celebrate recovery. I started my own group in 2011. And here, like, you know, I'd gone through, like I'd done a breaking free, like I didn't know about Celebrate Recovery during some of the time, but God led me through the same things that is in the program. And it was so cool when I read the program, and I'm like, wow, me and God did that. Like, this is cool. And then here I thought that I was like 2 years ago, I was like, okay, I've forgiven my ex-husband, you know, I'm good, and I've been teaching, you know, all these years. And during the worship service at church, one day, I hear, this is where I always hear him talk to me right here. It said, pray for Rick. And that's my ex-husband, okay? And I was like, my response, see, I thought I'd forgiven him. Guess what my response was? What? No, I didn't want to pray for him. And then I was like, immediately convicted. the second that thought came into my mind, right, I'm like, oh, okay, I will. And ever since I started doing that, it changed. And now I don't feel that anything toward, like, anger towards it anymore. So it can be tricky. and I figured it out from, teaching, because I'm listening too when I'm teaching the lesson, right? Stuff hits me too. Different things over the year. I don't even know how many times I've taught the whole lessons, and there's always something good I can get out of it. But that time was the forgiveness, because we were doing forgiveness in class when all that happened. It's like, hello, you didn't forgive all the way, And that's the thing, is I'm the one that got free. And I learned that from Celebrate Recovery. I thought, why would I forgive him? He doesn't deserve it. No, he doesn't. Not at all. He doesn't deserve anything like that. But that's not what it's about. It's not about deserving. It's about me and my heart and what's in my heart festering. If there's anything in there. I didn't tell him I forgave him. That's between me and God, unless God told me to go tell him. That isn't what it's for. It's not for him, really. It's for me. And that's what's great about God. Sorry. Well, actually, there's a million things great about God. So, we don't have time to go through all those, but yes. So I was going to say, wait, there's not just one thing here. But, this program, I've seen, so many people, their lives changed right in front of my eyes, from doing this program, and including mine. Like I said, I still have stuff to work on after even 25 years of being saved and doing a lot of work. I always was in Bible studies and everything, and so that surprised me that I still had that. So, CR is great. I love it all, everything to do with it. I don't know if you guys know anything about CRI now that they want to go into the jails and prisons. And so I actually started as the CRI Utah State Rep, but then there wasn't like a Utah regular rep, so I'm doing both right now until I think it's August, and then I'll just be the CRI again. And I would love it if anybody has a heart for jail, going into teaching sober recovery in the prison or jail, then let me know, please, because I want to get that started going. And here's the problem: is I need somebody that really has a good heart, because I want to recommend somebody to take over for me, because I'm going to be moving out of state next year. So I would like at least get somebody in there. So pray about that. And just think about how rewarding that would be, to sit there and watch, because their whole lives will be changed. The whole idea of CRI is, while the person in prison is going through the program, the wife, kids also going through a program. The regulars, like a group here. That's the idea, to get the whole family in it and just see the miracles that can happen from that. That's amazing. It could totally change their lives completely and never go back to prison. And so, how much longer do you want me to? When do you usually go to the other part? Now? Okay, that's what I was thinking. So anyways, yeah, it's like, I could sit here and tell you all the kinds of stories about God if you want, but we don't have all night, right? So anyways, yes, I'm just a very grateful believer in Jesus Christ and fully surrendered to Him. I highly recommend it, because that's when it's not, I don't want to say easy, but not hard, as hard, because if you're surrendered, it's like you're in this communication always with God, and it's not so hard, and your heart changes, your desires change, what you want changes, because you're surrendered 100%. And so that's the best way to stay clean. I totally recommend that. And by the way, I never became a drug addict, but I did try, like at parties, you know, so I've tried heroin, I've tried cocaine, pot, obviously, and drinking, and I think that's all. No, I was gonna take acid once, but it was fake, so. That's luckily for me, because I was like 16 but it didn't work, so thank God, because I've heard some horror stories about that, and when I heard that, I'm like, I'm never doing that. That's scary stuff. But anyway, so yeah, I've done drugs. I know, I know about them. I've lived with a drug addict for 10 years, and one of my daughters, actually, the daughter that I was pregnant with when I was getting beat up, she's a heroin and cocaine addict, and right now she just relapsed after almost a year and a half clean. So she's supposed to, I'm gonna try to get her to come here because she lives out here, but we'll see. It's been a rough road, so I definitely know what all that stuff is about, for sure. Thanks for letting me share.